Hello and welcome. I'm Graz, and this is a breakdown of the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. I'll compare the specs between both systems, and then at the end I'll give you an opinion piece on what I think of the next-gen systems. Let's get started. First and foremost, with the Xbox One, it will include an 8-core 64-bit AMD CPU, 8 gig of DDR3 RAM, 3 of which will be used for the operating system, 500 gig hard drive, which is non-replaceable, built into the system, 3.0 USB, that'll be something interesting, Blu-ray disc drive, it's actually a slot loader, not a tray loader anymore, so they actually caught up with PlayStation in that regard, support for 4K resolution, and of course we'll also have support for 7.1 surround sound. It will also have HDMI input and output, and it will also have cloud storage for gaming, music, and any other saved content. So that's interesting to say the least. Now switching over to the PS4 side. That will also include an 8-core AMD Jaguar 64-bit CPU. Basically, they're on the same page almost. Rumor has it it's almost the same CPU. 8 gigabyte of DDR5 RAM. That's interesting. No announced hard drive at this time, but it will be built into the system, so when that happens, they'll have to announce it. They will also have 3.0 USB support. A Blu-ray drive will also be included in the PS4, another slot loader as well. And HDMI support, 1080p, with 4K support for high def. So pretty much on the same page, both these systems are emulating each other in a very similar regard. Both of these systems have some slight changes to their controllers, probably more so on the PlayStation 4 side with the little touchpad support on their controller. Meanwhile, the Xbox has redesigned their controller to where the battery pack is flat with the backside of the controller, and they've done some slight tweaking of the controls itself. Other than that, it doesn't seem like it's too much. It's more friendly for the hands, I guess you could say. One quick note I should throw out there is that apparently for the PlayStation 4, there will be some sort of cloud support storage with that as well. So, for the most part, these guys are pretty much going head-to-head. On a video card standpoint, for the most part, it sounds like, once again, they are pretty much neck and neck. A lot of it's hearsay at this point. We really haven't heard much in the way of conclusion. So, it'll be something that'll eventually get announced at some point, probably at E3 coming up soon. We'll certainly see on that. But exactly, it's pretty much neck and neck between both of these systems. The real difference comes in the fact that Xbox One ultimately wants to be your one system for everything entertainment TV-wise, as PlayStation 4 kind of wants to be everything one for your social media needs, for your sharing with friends, your video uploading, and things like that. So they're very similar, but they have slight different paths they're taking. Currently, at this time, we probably know a little bit more about the Xbox One than we do for the PlayStation 4. So that can only be assumed that we'll find out more on that during E3. Things for Xbox One like Kinect setup, things like that. We can find out that Xbox One will be using Skype. It'll use something called Smart Glass, which is basically what Windows 8 uses for an interface. It will have voice command. So I don't know how that's going to work out. It'll be very interesting to see how that gets demonstrated. We really didn't get to see that much in depth, especially when you have multiple people in the room. So that can prove something very interesting. Now, PlayStation 4 has something similar to Kinect, but we didn't really get anything from it during their demo. Their demo was great, but at the same time, the gameplay is pretty much what we got. That was something we didn't get really from Xbox One. Their gameplay was something bit of disappointing. They made you wait over 30 minutes to at least get a glimpse, and all their reels were pretty much that, just highlight reels. You didn't get a chance to see any type of gameplay. You just saw movie footage that was all strung together. Now, during sports games, that can be very misleading because we've seen that before in the past. How many games claim to be next-gen and were pretty much just wrote off down as movie clips? I want to see gameplay. I don't want to see movie clips of what certain players might look like doing something. I want to see what it looks like when it actually handles in the game. As for the Xbox One, it claims that you can actually hook up your cable box, your whatever TV provider, right to the gaming system and go from there. You can watch TV, I don't know if you can record shows. I doubt it at this time, but that's a thing. We'll see what happens down the road. But if you want something that goes to your TV like that, that would be a way to go. It does contain a 500 gig hard drive. Now, apparently with this, they say you'll use it to install disks, and after a while, you won't even need the disk anymore. A lot of the storage will go on cloud, so the hard drive is just there for maybe a temporary thing. Who knows? That's kind of strange, to say the least, because now all of a sudden you got this hard drive that you'll be using for a little bit, and then everything goes online to cloud. Now, something that Xbox did that really kind of irked a lot of people was always on DRM. We heard some rumors that that may be a thing with their system. Eventually, they backed off from it, which was a good idea, and they're leaving DRM up to any developer's discretion. Now, if you don't know what DRM is, it basically means that any game you install, you can only use once. If you want to install it somewhere else, if you want to give it to a friend to install, they have to pay for it as well. Your game always has to be online in order for it to work. If you don't have internet access, you can't play it. That's how it goes. It's digital rights management, and if they can't tell, if it's only one, they're not going to let you play it. You have to be online. And a lot of people don't like that with very good reason. It's not very consumer friendly. It's a great way to combat pirating, but at the same time, it's not a great way to help out your consumer. It's not a great way to endear yourself to your customers. You're basically telling people if they don't have internet or if something's wrong with their internet, they're boned. How many times have we seen gaming companies botch that one up by simply saying, always on DRM is a great thing, only to have them games crash? You need an example? Take a look at EA's SimCity. How horrible that was at launch. That turned out to be terrible, and it was only the beginning for the downfall of that game, which is very disappointing to say the least. All the hype and all the build-up for that. But I digress. As for the PlayStation 4, they have a share button on their controller. That's really interesting. Now, both systems will allow you to record your own game footage and upload them. PlayStation 4 has the share button, so you can pretty much upload to, I guess, any social media website you want, maybe even YouTube. That could be a thing. I believe both systems have a native video editor in there. How good that native editor is yet to be seen because we haven't really heard anything on it. At this point, all that can be really speculated is you'll be able to cut footage, add transitions, and maybe add some text. Who knows? We'll have to wait maybe till E3 to see more on that, to see how it works. Now, both of these systems pretty much are high-end CPUs. The only difference is you really don't get the chance to upgrade them. Now, for the PlayStation 4, they're saying that it's being built around the fact that it'll be built for longevity. It'll have different upgrades and fixes over time, which kind of gives it quite a long approach. I wouldn't write off the Xbox One in that regard either, because they can very easily do the same thing. There's so much that we don't know about both these systems still that we're waiting on. Now, the one thing I will point out is they both support 4K resolution, so that's something that they're really looking for the long term. From the previous generation up to what we currently have right now was quite a long leap. So right now, both these next-gen systems are looking for a long-term future. There'll be something you could probably see all the way up to about 2020 at least. And 4K resolution will be a thing eventually. 1080p will eventually be the past, and that's something that you have to pretty much look upon. Both of these systems having USB 3, that's a no-brainer right there because right now it's pretty much slowly becoming the norm. USB 2 is going to the back burner. USB 1 is pretty much non-existent anymore. If you could find something that has USB 1, it's highly outdated basically. So that's a thing right there. It's great to see that the Xbox One will be using a slot loader now. Tray loaders are quite annoying. I've always bumped them things. My greatest fear is breaking one by accident. So by going to slot loader, it makes things better. Blu-ray, of course, that's a no-brainer. If Xbox One didn't have Blu-ray support, then quite frankly, somebody should have been fired for that. There's no excuse why they shouldn't have had Blu-ray. So at least they took the proper step. They went with a slot loader just like the PlayStation did. So that's one less thing to worry about in my eyes. As for the pricing for both these systems, we really don't know. There's a lot of speculation out there, especially on Xbox part. There's a two-part pricing speculation. Apparently, you can get a subsidized version of the Xbox One for $300 as long as you assign a 2-year contract for Xbox Live. So that could be a thing. If you don't want the contract, you probably have to pay around $500, which is a little pricey for a system right out of the gate. PlayStation 4, we have no idea just yet. Heck, we're still waiting to see what the system looks like. Apparently, that's going to be released on June 10th. That'll be a thing. We'll actually get to see what it looks like, so I'm looking forward to that. As for the Xbox One, it looks like a VCR. Basically like an old CDI. That's an interesting old-time-ish look, but they've learned the lesson from the 360. This thing has high airflow ventilation. They made sure to keep up on that. And it does have a nice metallic black looking color to it, I got to admit. It'll be very interesting to see more specs for these systems come out. They're very identical in both regards. They've got very similar CPUs. From what I understand, the video cards are going to be very close as well, so they'll be able to bump out very nice graphics. And as for a hard drive, we'll find out more from the PlayStation 4, but I totally wouldn't be surprised if it took the same path of the Xbox One. So basically, that's it. They're very identical. I guess it depends on branding. Well, if you've always been with PlayStation, you're going to get a PlayStation 4. If you've been with Xbox, you're going to go get an Xbox One. That's just going to be the way it goes. I've gotten a PlayStation 1 and a PlayStation 2 and an Xbox 360. Which way I would go, it's too hard to tell right now because right now they both look almost equally the same to me. The thing being, Xbox One's going to be more for TV entertainment and PlayStation 4 is going to be more geared towards social media. Now, as for my opinion, I think both of these companies need to start focusing more on the gaming aspect instead of the entertainment social media aspect. I get it. It's a business decision. They want more people in, not just the gamers, but they want to get the family involved. They want to get everybody else involved. It's interesting. It's an interesting move, but at the same time, I don't want to hear a feature being like, we've added a share button, or you can now hook up your TV to the Xbox, like directly from your cable box. That doesn't do much for me. As a gamer, that's just saying, you're catering to other people. These were always like secondary needs toward the gaming people. Now, all of a sudden, it's like we're branching out from that. Here's a little bit more buffed up specs, but now we're going to focus more on the outside innovation. Innovation's good. You always need innovation to keep things moving along. But at the same time, you're also going to have to focus on the gaming aspect. Look at Nintendo. Look at the Wii that had all the success. They went ahead, they gave it a new controller, they gave it all kinds of different things. You had things like Wii Fit and everything. That worked out quite well for Nintendo. The Wii was a great seller. The thing that's not working out for Nintendo right now with the Wii U, there's no killer app. There's no franchise games. There's basically nothing. They started off kind of flat. If you start off with Mario U, then that's not doing much. There's always been 2D platformers. It looks great in high def. So what? You got to start off with that killer app. You got to have those franchise titles like Zelda, like Metroid, and anything else. You need those in there to actually bring in people, those hardcore gamers, to enjoy the system. Having a touchpad is great. Nintendo did a good thing there. And PlayStation 4 kind of went with that area too with their touchpad. As for Xbox, I really don't know. The Xbox logo, is it a touchpad? Is it a button? That's something that I haven't heard of yet. A lot of people haven't really gotten a chance to figure that one out. So it's something we'll probably find out soon. But still, you got to have gaming innovation as well. You just can't have basically, we'll subsidize for other things and we'll just bump up the specs for gaming. That's nice, but I also want to see some gaming innovation from these companies. Chances are this could be the last gen we'll actually see where consoles actually have disk drive support. As we move ahead into the future, eventually games could just be purchasable by download and go right to the system. The way things look right now, places like GameStop will be pretty much irrelevant unless you want to download content from online. That's the way things are going. Ultimately, we don't know what this next gen could last for. It could be quite some time again. We could have another 7 or 8 year run with this. So this is something that, we got to be prepared for. I think in the end, maybe some of these game companies are also doing the same thing with Xbox and PlayStation. They're ultimately being prepared, so they're going to try to make that system that takes over your whole living room. As for me right now, I don't want my whole living room taken over by one box. If I want to tweet during a gameplay, I'll have my cell phone right there. If I want to go ahead and watch TV, I can get a small one in the room and watch it on the side. Anyway, I digress. That's going to do it for this brief wrap-up of the Xbox One versus the PlayStation 4. Hope you found this video informative. If so, please give it a thumbs up. Leave any questions, comments, or suggestions down below in the comment box. I'd love to hear you. If you heard anything new on the systems, please feel free to leave that down there as well. One quick note before you head away, both of these systems will be out later this year. Xbox says later, and PlayStation 4 says holiday 2013. So that pretty much leads me to believe around the holidays you'll see them come out. I wouldn't be surprised by November, December-ish. You might see Xbox around December 1st. Who knows? We'll see. So much more has to be added. So much more has to be leaked out still. So we'll find out when it all comes. As for everybody, have yourselves a wonderful day. And if not, then just simply fake it. And I'll see you again next time.